Are we live? Are we live? Are we live? Are we live? Let us know if we're live on this wonderful Thursday before we watch two good defenses and two mediocre to bad offenses on Thursday Night Football. I'm excited to see Bo Nix because everyone's been talking about how great he is, but I'll be honest, I haven't been really watching the Broncos that often. So excited to see how he looks. Are we live? Are we live? Let us know if we're live. I'm here with the NYG Weekly guys, Weiss, NYG Daily, Ethan, Gotham Sports. Didn't they make a Gotham Sports app?
They did, yeah. So if there's anyone in chat that's like a patent lawyer or whatever type of law, and I think this is actually like a really, really perfect introduction, Bobby, because we're talking about maybe, can I curse on this?
Yeah.
Okay. Like fucking over the owners of some of the worst New York sports teams. If there's anyone out there that wants to do some pro bono legal work and sue James Dolan, slide into my DMs because there's probably a case here.
Is it owned by James Dolan or is it MSG? What is it?
Yeah, it's MSG and SNY combined. Oh. So James Dolan has an ownership stake. But yeah, I actually like spoke to someone at a law firm and I was like, hey, do I got a case here? And the reply was basically, we're retained by MSG. I can't comment on this.
You think they'd throw you $10,000 just to shut you
right.
up? Like you might at least just get like, a nice
I haven't made a stink though. I haven't made a stink. I haven't flown any planes, so we'll see.
You should. I was gonna say
I should.
You should fly a plane.
Yeah, we'll see how bad it gets to the end of the season.
Yeah, I'm so excited for because we don't know if there's gonna be a plane before the Colts game, but like you think that there's gonna be one, so it's just everyone. I was texting Justin before the other game because we didn't know. And I was like, all right, make sure you get there in time for the plane.
If I had to make a prediction, I'd say that there's probably going to be a plane.
Probably going to be a plane.
I think there's probably going to be a plane.
I don't know.
We might get planed out. Mara just is like, not paying attention to the planes, but
you might declare a no-fly zone. Shoot it down.
Oh, weird. I was talking pre-show with Weiss. I was like, he must be just praying, like, please God, let it rain. Yeah. Or just rain. And then we'll just, have those people.
By the way, is this live on YouTube or is this like a Patreon?
Live on YouTube. Live on YouTube. So
should I be like retweeting a link or anything like that?
There's a video. The Periscope went out and it's tagged you in it, so you can retweet that. All right, we got Weiss and Ethan of the NYG Weekly podcast here to talk some Giants football. I don't have like this specific let's get into this thing, but like what is like on your guys' mind? I listened to your pod on Monday. Very nice rant from Ethan that you guys posted on socials. Like
Weiss had a good one too. I liked Weiss. Weiss made a really good point that I hadn't really considered. Weiss
talking about the young fans.
That. Yeah, there's like a new generation of pissed off people.
Which is like I'm just so tired of like being tired and pissed off at the New York Giants. I love preview pods that we do. Like I actually go and watch film and I'm like, they get in trips bunch, blah, blah, blah. And like when it happens in the game, like sick. It's like you can't even talk about the games anymore. Like if after this Falcons game, we just gave a game recap like it was week 5, people will be like, what is going on here?
Nobody cares who's getting fired.
Nobody cares about.
No one cares. And Bobby, honestly, like for you guys, you and Justin, like I do feel a little bad because you guys do a very good job of breaking down the X's and O's, but it's not even worth breaking down the X's and O's at this point.
No,
like it's just a strictly vibes based podcast.
Oh, that's why I'm doing the live streams. Is like
you replied to me with just like a list of guys who are going to be playing secondary for the Giants this week.
Who? Oh yeah, Greg Stroman, Art Green,
right?
Those guys fall for play action way too. But this week is actually the first week in a while where I'm excited to watch the game because I love the Sean McVay coaching tree, but Zach Robinson's been stuck with Kirk Cousins not being able to move, so he's been limited. And I'm not a Michael Penix guy. I don't think he was worthy of that pick, even if they didn't sign Kirk Cousins. This is my little Zach Robinson tryout before I can bang on the table for him when they fired Dable to keep Shane. Let's start with that because I don't want to give too much of my take. So it's good to have you on because our podcast tomorrow is about that specifically. The Schwartz article comes out saying they're considering firing Dable and keeping Shane.
You weren't the only one that got a phone call.
Yeah. But that was an unusual phone call that I got.
I thought about this because I knew we were going to talk about it, especially with all the stuff that came out. And so, I look at it like this, right? From the moment that Joe Shane was hired, Brian Daboll was his guy. And then ownership had their guy, but they let Joe Schoen hire his guy. And then after that, for the last 3 years, it's been like, this is a, collaborative effort, and these guys are together, and every decision is, it's made with, both guys signing off on it. And it's like, this is a cohesive group, and every roster decision is made together. We saw like clips from like the draft of like Brian Daboll on the phone with, I think, the Rams trying to trade up for Jalen Hyatt. Basically, like, both these guys put the roster together. Both their handprints are on it. But as it's fallen apart now you're telling me, hey, we're only going to fire the coach, but we're going to keep the general manager. And it's like, wait, but you just spent 3 years telling me how these guys are so together and how it's a collaborative effort. Why is one guy getting fired, but the general manager not getting fired? And it's like, what they're essentially telling us is that this is not a football decision. Like, there's other layers to this. And if you're making football decisions, but not basing the results, you're basing stuff that happens off the football field, then you're telling me that wins and losses don't matter. If that's the case, then why are we doing this?
Well, there's two. I want to let you guys talk about. There's two things. One, the GM has the hierarchy, so you can actually fire head coach and keep a GM. It happens and it works out sometimes. This is not supposed to be. That shouldn't be this situation, but there is examples of it working out well. Also, I think there's red flags for both of them. Brian Daboll's red flags bother corporate rich Giants, employees more than the Joe Schoen red flags. The other part of this, though, is when we talk about what Mara, his impact on things is always tricky because you never know for sure. Even if you have people that give you stuff, you don't know exactly what to believe on it. But the Schwartz podcast clip, he says Shane would not want to fire Daboll, but he'd just do it because they don't so they're literally they're not even hiding the fact that they would be forcing their GM to fire a head coach. So it's we trust and the GM who's point is, we're not that far off. Okay, we're not that far off. We just need a whole new coaching staff, a franchise QB, because we did a decent job in this recent draft. So we're not that far off because we had these one-score games where this coaching staff was scheming guys open and the quarterback wasn't delivering on them. But we're getting rid of that coaching staff, and also we need to land the hardest thing to do in football, getting that franchise quarterback. So it's they're not even hiding the fact that it would be Mara's influence that's making the decision. So if Shane's bowing to that, what else is he going to bow to?
Well, that's the thing. If they fire if they fire the head coach, and Mara sort of says, "Hey, this is the ultimatum: either fire the head coach or you're gone too." Well, guess who's going to be quarterbacking the head coaching search? Guess who's going to try to pin another head coach with a GM who they might not align? And it's basically what? Dave Gettleman and Joe Judge all over again.
Yeah, they've done it twice. It's It'd be one thing if this was the first time and let's try this. Let's try keeping this GM who's given us computers and try a new head coach. But it's this has failed twice in the last 4 or 5 years. The exact same thing.
It's like a slightly twisted Arrested Development meme where Job is sitting on the bed. Well, did it work for other people? No, but it might work for us.
Yeah,
did it work the first 2 times? No, but it might work the third time.
I hate it's not impossible, right? You can get lucky. You could get the right head coach. Shane can start hitting his draft picks. But I hate having my hope in this team based on hopefully they just are the outlier.
Well, that's basically what Weiss and I landed on last episode, was that it's going to take luck. I mean, the entire success of the Giants through our lifetimes has been predicated on luck. They're lucky that Eli Manning forced his way to the Giants. They got lucky along the way to some of these Super Bowls. It's people are pissed off at Joe Schoen. They want him gone. Yeah, I'm in that camp too. But now we're going to, I think everyone here, no one's going to say that John Mara is not the number one problem. Now we're going to let him do it all over again. It's going to take luck.
Yeah, but there's different levels of luck. My hope for luck is I was talking with someone on the phone about this today, where he's I just don't trust Mara, so I'd rather keep Shane and Dave. I was well, here's my thing. I trust Mara more in just lucking into the right GM and that GM doing good in his first 2 years and his he doesn't listen to America. He's like, well, what are you going to do? Fire me? I've done a good job.
Like,
what are you going to do?
It's like drafting a quarterback. It's like, all right, just keep doing it until you hit. For John Mara, that's the GM position. Just keep picking a new one until you hit.
Right. So we'll get into the chat. There was something that you were teasing pre-show that you had?
Not even teasing. I mean, I'll talk for a little bit, but I think Bobby, after the drama went down with you and the Giants, that day where you guys had released that episode, like for whatever reason, I got contacted or hit up by like 2 or 3 different people who like they're not like primary sources. They're not people that I'm going to bank my life on, but like they've given me some insights before that turned out to be correct, things of that nature. Like the stuff that I was being told, it was horrendous. And that's what led to I tweeted out, however bad you think it is for the Giants, it's 50 times worse. And the only thing that I'll say that I at this point, it doesn't really matter because Daniel Jones isn't on the team anymore, but this is a firsthand source that said that the people who rep Daniel Jones, I'm trying to pick my words carefully here, effectively thought that there was no chance the Giants would agree to that contract and have since been using that as a sort of internal marketing tool for other athletes. So Joe Shane taken to the cleaners and effectively laughed at by those who did it.
Dude, any type of contract for Daniel Jones would be an L in hindsight. You know, I did this whole
correct, but I'm saying even at the time,
right?
They were
I did
laughing.
This like I hate using the word study because that sounds weird, but like I went and I looked at every single like middle tier quarterback who had got a contract and what their cap percentage was, and it caps out at like 36-37% of the cap. They set a new standard with the Daniel Jones, and he was like the least deserving out of all of those guys, even if you did think he was deserving of a contract. You know, they let the franchise tag with Saquon dictate way too much. And the whole thing was like, well, if you franchise tag Daniel Jones, they weren't going to negotiate until June or whatever it was. When in reality, it's like, all right, if you really wanted to really cutthroat negotiate, franchise tag Saquon Barkley before the deadline. Like, all right, now let's get a deal done. Let's get a deal done now before open free agency hits, and you don't get the offers that you're looking for out there, and you come back to us.
I mean, my stance was always the Daniel Jones franchise tag was the best way to go because, in my eyes, how much more per year would you have had to go had he played well in consecutive years and on the franchise tag? Another 10 million a year more. And in my eyes, that was more than okay for knowing with almost 100% certainty at that point whether or not he was the guy or that he was the guy.
And the other thing is, I don't want to talk about Daniel Jones when it comes to the whole Joe Shane decision, because here's the issue. No, John Mayer is not going to judge him on it. He's not going to judge him on it because that's what he wanted. Whether we can debate and, this person said this person said that, how much John Mayer was involved in this. But at the end of the day, John Mayer wanted that. He wanted that.
And I think the fair take is that this was a Joe Shane contract that John Mara was happy about. Like, right. Again, I think if that's the least amount of influence that John Mara had, he's still not going to fault Joe Shane for it. So I agree with you.
Right. So it's like I whenever I'm focusing on why I think Joe Shane should be fired, I spend as little time as possible on the Daniel Jones contract because I know they're not going to judge it. It's like this is not about QB, and there's somebody like QB is obviously the most polarizing position in all of sports. So, we've always joked like there's just some people don't know how to talk about anything other than the quarterback, but this is not what that is.
Well, it's the fact that he can't draft.
Yeah, it's the fact that he can't draft.
You did that exercise, and I was chatting with Justin too, and it was just like, yeah, the guy just can't draft.
Yeah, I spent like 5 minutes on the Daniel Jones thing. Like that's the Daniel Jones contract is the least of my issues, even though it worked out way worse than what I thought. I always part of our pending draft free agents is like, all right, look at the top 5 young QBs in the NFL at the time, and look at their quarterback situation when the year that they were drafted. It's like every single one of those teams was paying somebody. Chargers were paying Phil Rivers the year before. Ravens paying. It's like, so even if you don't believe in the quarterback, like you can still put yourself in a situation. Chiefs with Alex Smith, Bengals with paying Andy. Like you can still go get the quarterback, but obviously went way worse. Like that's the least of my issues is the DJ thing.
the first two drafts did way more detriment to Joe Shane than the Daniel Jones contract.
They're so bad. They're
Yeah.
like so bad.
When you whiff on 2 top 10 picks, and it's a different level whiff. Like Kayvon Thibodeau is obviously a good player. He's not a great player, but for a number 5 pick, you want more. Like Evan Neal's a bust. But
well, think
like,
about the Kayvon. Kayvon, you said like nobody's happy with him as a 5th overall pick.
Right.
He's still like the 5th or 6th best player on this team, which
Exactly.
is like that's my big thing. Like
even if they would have gotten,
he has not lived up to the hype yet. He's still one of your best players.
Right. Like even if they would have gotten the quarterback, like this year, they're probably not 2 and whatever they are now, but they're like a 5, a 6-win team, like missing the playoffs, like where New England is, right? Like devoid of talent everywhere else, rookie quarterback. The problem is that now they don't have a young quarterback to develop, and then you're going into a draft that is certainly not what last year was. So it's like, are they going to force a pick? Like, or are they going to play themselves out of it? Because if they win one game, that could be the difference between picking 1st or 2nd and picking 8th or 9th. Then what do you do? So, like I said, it was never about the Daniel Jones contract. I was in favor for it, right, at the time, primarily because of my faith in the head coach and the general manager. But what it comes down to, and what I said, you had me on before the season, and I said, I don't care about them not drafting a quarterback. I don't care about, who they didn't draft. I'm looking at what they have. I want to see guys develop. I want to see young players develop, and they haven't. So that's where I land. And maybe I wasn't there in week 4 or 5, but now sitting at week 16, it's like, this is really, really bad. And these young players are just young players. They're not good players. They're not cornerstone players, especially the ones you drafted in the 1st round, 2nd round, and 3rd round. I mean, Jalen Hyatt can't see the field.
That's a great thing to bring up, because I think there's obviously some people who just want to, if it's not good right away, they want people fired. But I think 90+% of people before the season would have said, at this moment, I don't want Joe Shane fired, and I don't forecast that happening. But then no one thought the Giants were going to win this year. So like a question we dealt with is like, okay, what do you judge Joe Shane on this year? And it's all right. 2022 class, step up. 2023 class, start to progress. 2024 class, which I will say has done fairly well, being a little overrated. But I was like, Malik Neighbors, there needs to be no runway. You land, you go. Having one of the day 3 guys hit. Tracy and Newman and Phillips have looked like solid players. They're being overrated right now because they're rookies, but like they at least are. I think they're building more to going into year 2 than the last year's like JMS high. I think people just overrated those guys in the moment.
Do you think so? Like, do you think Tyler Newman looks?
He's a solid. He's going to be a solid starting safety in the NFL. Like he's much better than what Jason Pinnock is, who's not good, but like Pinnock is a good starting safety in the NFL. Is he going to be the ball hawk? I don't know. He's got to get more than 1 pass breakup. Like that's my line. Is like, hey, as much as you may like Phillips and Newman right now, there are 2 DBs who have combined for 1 pass breakup and 0 interceptions. I need to see more before I crown them. I can like the signs, but I can't crown them. But in reality, the classes stink. 2022 stinks. 2023 is even worse. You traded up for those guys. Banks was extremely overrated last year, and people just blame it on the Wink scheme. No, he was overrated, and he covered wide receiver 2s, and you look past his flaws because he was a rookie. JMS has gotten a little better. He's probably the best pick from that class. Hyatt is useless. Eric Gray's a 3rd-string running back that has a fumble problem. Trey Hawkins had 1 game and then broke his back because he still hasn't learned how to tackle. Jordan Riley stinks. And the one guy I really like, Javarius Owens, they fucking cut. So like it's been terrible.
But look at where the thought process was on the draft last year at this time. Like people were like Jalen Hyatt was coming off a great game against the Rams. Remember that game we had over 100 yards? Like
3 good games and people crowned him.
But that's the thing. Like I think we're doing that right now with this rookie class, where it's like let's wait and see where we are next year at this time.
I agree. People are definitely people are crowning them now. Neighbors a hit, Tracy a hit. I don't have to wait on those guys, but this is how it's gone with Talking Giants because we're not going to crown these guys in the moment. So last year, we're like, yeah, you guys are overrating Banks a little bit, and then this year,
I'm not crowning Tyler Newman yet. Like
no, he should not be crowned, but next year, like, so right now we're saying this, and then people will be like, fuck you, Tyler Nubin. And then next year, when Tyler Nubin's like a similar player, a little better, people will be calling him a bust. And I'm like, well, he's still a good starting safety. And then we'll be the people defending him. But yeah, anyways, long way of saying stop crowning Tyler Nubin and Andrew Phillips and Theo Johnson. He has this, you know, like he's like 40th, and I'm a tight end. He was my tight end too. He's like 40th in like yards per route run. Anyways, back on track. What's the chat saying on this?
I saw somebody
night?
insult Ethan. But
that's good. On here, I don't see it. I want to find it now.
I think it was in my replies. I was trying not to laugh. It was a good one.
Okay.
I think I'll text it to you.
I've been liking every.
I saw that. It was involving a brass instrument.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I'll find it and put it on the screen.
Bobby, let me ask you: have you started scouting the quarterbacks or no?
Nah, it's just one. Like, I don't even have the all 22 of all these guys. I watched Cam Ward casually for my midseason mock, and I'm like, this is definitely fun. This is aggressive. Like, this is not like casually watching this versus casually watching JJ McCarthy. I like this a lot more, but I haven't really watched Shador. Why?
Just
Ethan
because
hates these quarterbacks.
Well, yeah, I do, but
which is fine. Like, anyone acting like we do this every year, where people are like, "Yeah, I don't think these QBs are good," and everyone's like, "Fuck you! You don't know what you're talking about. What you said about this class?" And then it's like, all right, most first round quarterbacks bust.
Yeah.
Right?
Also,
it doesn't mean you got to say everyone's gonna be a bust, but it's okay. Like here, like this is even if you end up liking these. Last year, the argument was like, well, you got to take a quarterback next year. This now because the quarterbacks next year suck. Well, now we're in next year, and you guys are telling me they're great.
No, but again, like at the end of the day, we're content creators. We're not scouts. We do what we do. You know, Bobby for
Bobby's
you.
Bobby's a scout.
Bobby's a scout. Bobby,
I'm not a scout, but
Bobby gets paid though to do this. We do this for a hobby wise. And at the end of the day, like none of us
we're just two assholes with a microphone.
Yeah, two assholes with a microphone. 3 when Nick is here. But fact of the matter is, we're not at 1925 Giants Drive. We're not a GM or scout or any of that. But I think I don't want to say it's important, but we have opinions and we stake our claim. Like last year, my personal opinion, as not a GM, not a scout, just as an asshole with a microphone, was that the top 3 studs, draft them. Absolutely. They're all very different, but loved all 3 of them. I think at one point late in the college season, I even said that I thought Jaden Daniels could be the best in the class. Pat on the back because everyone likes to clown me for liking Josh Rosen. But when it came to the following quarterbacks with Penix, Bo Nix, JJ, I didn't want to draft them. And for I personally do not view either Shador Sanders or Cam Ward anywhere close to the top 3 last year, the top 3 that I loved that I would have picked. And to be honest, I haven't really thought about it too much because I just want nothing to do with them. But where would I rank them amongst the JJs and the Penixes and the Bo Nixes? I don't know, but probably like in that grouping. Like none of these guys excite me. And I think that everything that we've seen, there's just too much smoke to ignore. And I've had people tell me myself that Shador's their guy. Like they love Shador.
I've heard that too. Yeah.
They have number 1 pick. It's going to be Shador. Like no questions asked. It's like full bloom love. Dave Gettleman, Saquon Barkley, at the comp. Like it's
that's
the
been
worst.
Their sales pitch to John Mayer is what someone told me is that they're going to draft Shador.
It is like the worst kept secret in New York sports right now. Maybe even in
the way you know
NFL.
that is certain people who defend the team all of a sudden just start, going Shador crazy.
Correct. And it's like, again, it's the worst kept secret. And I have a hard time. No, like just even you, Bobby, right? Just, okay, you haven't watched Shador enough, but like generally, like you've seen the highlights, the strengths, the weaknesses, what people are saying about him. Like, can you seriously straight face be like that's a Joe Shane quarterback, given what you know about his preferences?
Shador?
Yes.
I feel like Shador is not like this overly like super talented, so you got to actually slow down. So I can't answer because I do take.
Okay, well here's what
I try to not give takes on these guys until. So I don't want to say something but
that's fine.
Like,
but
you watch Joe Burrow, and it's like people clown Joe Burrow like he doesn't throw the ball that great, but I was like, yeah, but he fucking operates the middle of the field like an assassin. Like if Shador is similar to that, then I'll say yes. And I don't think JJ did that at all. I think McCarthy was one of the more overrated prospects. And someone told me that they didn't love him either last year. Penix was actually their QB4.
That was my QB4 too.
Which ended up being the NFL's QB4 too. Penix, we'll see him, and I think he's going to probably torch the Giants this week.
Bobby, you had a tweet a few weeks ago, by the way, that I want to shout out, where it was something along the lines of, it was regarding JJ McCarthy. Like, don't take your victory lap yet. You'll be able to do it when he actually starts games because of how like quarterback friendly that system is.
Sam Darnold's having a fucking like amazing season, and I still watch him. Like, he misses like 8 throws per game, but they never have to pay for it in this offense.
Right. And to me, like that sort of equivalent is like Penix going up against whoever the fuck is playing second.
Yeah, I don't give a shit about that. Like,
you just know that there's going to be people just I knew we should have taken him all. I said that yeah.
Again, which is fine.
I was trying to tell people that.
Yeah, wait till week 8 next year. You know, I've seen, and here's the other thing. Forget just the Giants defense. I've seen way too many guys have amazing debuts, including Daniel Jones, and fucking end up being, awful. Like Will Levis threw like 5 touchdowns in his first game. Marcus Mariota, another 5 touchdown game. I feel sorry for Titans.
Daniel Jones' first game.
Yeah, Daniel Jones, dude. That was. We talked about it when DJ was cut, and I was like, I think that might be like my favorite moment of Giants football over like the last 10 years with that Daniel Jones debut. Like, even more than the playoff game. The playoff game was like, all right, this is not going to last long. But yeah, so dunk all you want. Like, give me 8 to 10 games before you start that shit. But yeah, it's I at the end of the day, I think even if they do fire these guys, I think they'll probably end up taking a quarterback if they have a top 2 pick. I think
they will. I think they're going to force it, and I think Duggan on your guys' podcast probably articulated it the strongest I've heard it articulated about the coach and the coaching issues. And I even had someone tell me the other day, like that's the fears. If they fire Daboll and they have to keep Bowen and Kafka's gone and Joe Shane's on the hot seat, like who's going to be the coach? Yeah.
Yeah. That's like, again, that's fire. Just keep them both. That's the other thing. John Mayer, stop being a pussy, dude. Like, don't give us your pound of flesh thinking, we want somebody fired. Just be a man and keep them. And guess what? If you don't,
Kafka's not going to be back anyway. Make him the sacrificial lamb.
Yeah. If you don't keep them, guess what? You can fire them in a year, right? Like, I think we'd all rather. I think, Jordan put the poll out too, and I think every single fan, and I hate saying this because you shouldn't listen to the fans. But the reality is John Mayer is just kind of like a fan like everyone else, and he gets too emotionally attached to the guy. Everyone agrees the worst case scenario is firing one and keeping the other. Everyone agrees. Just fire them or keep them both.
Because we've done it twice. We've done it twice, and it doesn't work. And I agreed. And
it doesn't work with this ownership group
John Mayer should just sack up. He obviously wants to keep Joe Shane. Otherwise, Paul Schwartz wouldn't be running PR for him. So keep them both. Do it for another year. I mean, I don't understand how you can how do you justify just keeping Joe Shane? You're like, all right, but here you go. Daboll's going to go. They've each got their issues. Each got their issues. I mean, Daboll's like a pain in the ass to get along with. Yeah.
Like when they go, if they both leave, I'm going to feel more bad for Brian Daboll. I'm not going to feel bad for Joe Shane, especially after fucking this week. But Brian Daboll, I will have like a what if kind of thing, even though I don't think he's one of the best coaches in the NFL, but I do think with some decent circumstances, he'd be a good coach in the NFL. But like you said, even when you say that though, it's like, all right, but he fucking ran off Wink Martindale. Held Mike McCaffrey against his fucking will for optics.
He couldn't find a defensive coordinator this offseason.
Yeah, so Wilson turned him down, Bobic turned him down.
How would you guys feel if they kept both?
Better than if they kept one.
I mean, I would. At the end of the day, it is what it is. Hopefully, they hit another draft out of the park. The other guys start to progress, and just pray they get a franchise QB. Like at the end of the day, if you get a franchise QB, it buys you so much grace. That's so I do the draft day speech every year, and mine this year was like, people are saying if they don't get a quarterback this year, well, they might not have the opportunity to get fired. I was like, well, the reason they won't have an opportunity is because they would have they didn't build a good roster.
Right.
If they had built a good roster, there'd be patience and they give them the opportunity. But you either have to do one or the other to have job security. You can't have neither and then claim you need another chance.
The most I think about this, is like in 2021, I was very excited, right? I was like, finally, right? We're going outside the family. It's no longer a mom and pop shop.
It was a good process.
It was great. Like the people they interviewed, I loved it. Adam Peters, Joe Ortiz, which was my guy from Baltimore. Like I loved what they did. There wasn't one guy where I was like, why are we interviewing this guy, right? But now it's just such a hopeless feeling because like Ethan texted me and he was like, are we about to do this again? Like we just did this. We just did like this whole GM rearrange your front office. And it's like we're doing it again. So it's not even like a level of excitement. There's also like a big lack of trust that I think too many people have confidence in John Mara. Maybe not after what happened this week with some of the pieces that came out, but for so many weeks, people were just so confident that they're gone, they're fired. And as I sit here today, I still don't I'm not 100% sold on either of them going.
Well, everyone's betting on the fact that
the embarrassment
so ugly. It's going to get so ugly. Yeah. It's going to get so ugly. But no matter and that probably is true, and we've seen that happen before. But it's like at this moment, he doesn't have the intention to fire Joe Schoen. Brian Day will possibly, but at this moment, there is the intention to fire Joe Schoen is not there, and it's built on bullshit. It's built on bullshit of like, oh, look how he revitalized the scouting department, and it's like. It's just fucking easy. It's so easy. Really it's so easy to fucking get John Mara to convince
him. Don't forget about that part.
I said it last podcast. I said that John Mara could be very easily telemarketed, schemed. He's got a rich uncle in Nigeria. Send me $25,000. John Mara would fall for that.
He also has a low bar, and the other thing is that he influences things, and then when those things go bad, he doesn't want to hold guys accountable because of his influence on it. So it's like, just get out of the way so you can judge them yes or no on it, right? You shouldn't be.
You guys are forgetting that Joe Schoen is pretty close to John Mara's nephew over the course of the last.
Well, yeah, who isn't good? What GM wouldn't come in here and try and be close to?
That's the whole thing, right? Like that's the problem. Like, why is it like a prerequisite for
you can't even leak anything bad about him, or you'll be screwed. Like you can't even leak there's never, and here's the thing, like Tim McDonald's the director of personnel. There has never been one leak about a guy who didn't like him. Not even
Explain to me. I just want everyone says ownership group doesn't influence roster decisions, right? Okay, fine. They didn't pay Saquon when Mara wanted to play him. Okay, fine. I'd argue the 2023 offseason, this past offseason was a lot different than the one coming off a playoff win. But okay, fine. But then explain to me why the nephew is the vice president of what, player personnel?
Is director of player personnel.
That's not just some made up title.
I think he's the youngest in the league at that position too.
So it's and then everywhere Joe Schoen goes, whether it's the Senior Bowl, whether it's to pro days, whether it's to Colorado to watch Shedeur Sanders, who's there?
Always right next to him.
So then am I supposed to believe, this is just a made-up position? The way they run things, right, is not working. So if it's a prerequisite that the general manager has to get along with the nephew who's heavily influencing roster decisions, then this job is already set up to fail. I'm not advocating for the current general manager. I'm just saying you're already setting this situation up to be a failure, and that's what's happening.
I reread that Duggan article from 2021 talking about the whole ownership dynamic with McDonald and Chris Mara and stuff. You forget how some of the shit with Chris Mara is nuts. Remember in 2021 when Schwartz was running pieces for Chris Mara, he doesn't really do anything. He just kind of comes in one. It's how are you defending that this guy with this position, your big defense is he doesn't really do shit. That's your big defense is that he doesn't do anything. And
which we know is now not true because now Weiss and I have people telling us that he actually has taken a step back, which means he was involved.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
By default.
Yeah. And I'm glad. But it's the thing is there's not that same heat on Tim McDonald. Maybe
no, and there should be
because the last name is not there. But
I'll give you one more thing. Tim McDonald was a part of the interview process when they hired Joe Schoen.
Oh, yeah.
The people that picked Joe Schoen to be the GM, Tim McDonald was a part of that group. So tell me how there isn't this influence or this like the dynamic is no. This is, like, yeah, okay, Joe Shane has final say. But like, how do you get to that final say? That's what we need to talk about.
Yeah, anyone denying that at this point is just
I'm
out of their mind.
just trying to like show people that it's just so much bigger than John Mara firing Joe Shane and Brian Daboll and then interviewing good people and then hiring one person. I think they have to change the way they operate as a franchise. It cannot be a mom and pop shop where it's like, if you get into our inner circle and we treat you like a part of the family, the on-field stuff doesn't matter. We don't care if you have a bad draft. We don't care if you make a
Weiss that Joe Shane gets dinner with John Mara every week.
I don't know. I'm just he does. Like, he still has dinner with the ownership group every single week. So,
and Shador
he's basically
Sanders,
part of the family.
the topic of it.
Yeah.
You guys got to be quiet for a second. Grab your favorite team's jersey. I forgot to do this. Grab your favorite team's jersey and some snacks and head to the couch for another Sunday of action-packed football and get even closer to action each Sunday with our partners at DraftKings Sportsbook. Check it out. Check out Michael Penix. Grab your Michael Penix jersey. Right now, all new customers who bet just $5 will get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins when you use code WORLD. Stay in on the action and use your $150 in bonus bets on DraftKings same-game parlays for a shot and even bigger payout. And if sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry. You can still join in on all the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy and have the shot to win cash prizes. How about that? How about that, state of Florida? So, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers use promo code WORLD. Bet just $5 on any wager and get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. That's promo code WORLD. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. You'll be glad you did. Anything else? I know we did the ownership stuff, the whole.
Well, one thing that I'm still pissed about is that pretty much my take on the season was that the Giants were going to be close to a 500 team. And being close to a 500 team meant that there would be some pieces that developed, some free agents or like a Brian Burns, someone like that would come in, really transform this team. We knew Daniel Jones stunk coming off the injury too, like whatever. But this roster and his coaching staff and his GM would have proven enough in year 3 to warrant going out there and maybe landing a big fish quarterback, not through the draft. Through a trade, someone gets disgruntled. Just every offseason, there's like one guy. You never know, right? Just be prepared in case it happens. When it happens, take your swing. 2 fucking wins.
Yeah, that's the thing. All they had to do was
come here.
All they had to do to get a 4-year, because like I was coming into this year, I was like, even if I want them gone, there's no way they're not getting a 4th year. And then it's like. They fucking won 2 games. I can't believe that's all you guys could fucking muster out was 2 wins. And then fucking crying about 1-score games is the shit that drives me nuts, dude. It's like, look at the whole, and Joe Shane's dumbass fucking use ammo against him. He's like, well, it's the most 1-score games in NFL history. It's like, yeah, that's not, you should be saying this the least amount of 1-score games, and you're just the unlucky part of it. But it is what it is. What'd you guys think of the whole Giants PR bullshit this week? They create PR nightmares for themselves, like the ESPN thing.
Yeah.
And I thought the L. Duncan segment was actually horrible. Like it's like
it wasn't funny.
No,
yeah, she's just not funny. It wasn't clever. It was just like really poorly done.
We all 3 of us had the same reaction, which is we did not know that segment happened.
I looked for it and I couldn't find it.
Hanlon shit his diaper.
I looked for it. I
had to
I
look
saw Pat Hanlon tweet that and I could not find it. I was like, ESPN.
What is he talking about? Yeah.
Nothing. And then I was actually on the plane to New Jersey and I was like, First Take came on they land. They put the Giants thing on. So I was like, let me just plug my headphones in for this. And I was like, you dumb motherfucker. Like,
I know they
and they did it again. Like,
yeah,
creating a PR nightmare. And
so let me ask you a question. I thought it was embarrassing, right? But when he called you, so I've been to training camps with you, and like I know,
but it wasn't Hanlon. Hanlon didn't call you.
No, Hanlon called me. I just
okay.
don't hate Hanlon personally.
Like 2 years, like I think a year ago, the whole no filming thing. You remember that?
Yeah.
Like they always had like giant security sitting around where we were sitting. It wasn't this past year; it was the year before that.
Yeah.
So like they know who you are. My thing is when he called you, did you think it was because of the plane thing, or
Yeah, I thought because we had the guy from the plane on the show.
right?
And here's the thing: even if it was just about the joke, if he was, do you know what's so funny? Saying cuss words in the chat. You guys are just so fucking funny. Anyways, I thought it was gonna be about the plane thing, which I didn't feel good about that anyway. I felt a little dirty, about that, and I was like, I wasn't gonna have much defense. I'm like, what else do you want us to do, dude? We're taking advantage of the moment. And even if it was about the Joe Shane video and he bitched at me, I'm like, okay, whatever. Like that's what a lot of PR are doing. It wasn't that like I thought he would just call, but when he's saying like, well, we're never gonna help you again, I'm like, well, dude, you haven't fucking done anything for me. Like, what are you threatening me with? The fact I have to get tickets to the Lions training camp practice instead of just having a worse view with the media.
Like, what are they gonna do? Confiscate Justin's PSL?
Yeah. Like, tell me, what are you gonna do that's not gonna be another PR nightmare for you? Like, are you gonna kick us out of training camp in general? Like,
dude, that's what I don't understand. Because like I got like, all right, there's one guy who's like a small time like independent like blogger reporter who does like stuff for the Islanders, and Islanders GM runs shit like the Gestapo. Like you can't, like you say one thing, like he'll like find you like in the building or whatever. Dude, who cares? Like all they're gonna do is create a PR nightmare for them.
Yeah, like
you're gonna get your credential back.
I wouldn't have shared if he just called me like bitching about it, but just the whole like, oh, we're not gonna. I was like, well, you haven't done shit for me anyways. Like, so but the issue is because we are fans. This is why they're like still out of touch with like reality and like the new age with everything. Is they're like, well, we let 2 fans into a practice. Like that's the fucking worst. We're the nicest people ever. When it's like, if we really wanted to get credentialed, we're no different than Big Blue View or Sports Illustrated, SI Country. Like we're no different than that. We just don't. Like I don't want one. Like we want to not have to pretend that we're not fans of the team. And we were joking too. It's like because we've done some stuff. Like we know some people from NASCAR has done me like 20 times the amount of favors that the New York Giants have done. Like a literal auto racing sport has like given me more shit than you guys have. But it was fun. I have not heard from anybody since that morning. We got follows from like Don Sperling and Bob Papa. So I thought maybe they'd like try and reach out again. I haven't heard anything from them since, which
Bob Papa is an interesting one.
So here, I've thought about this, about the whole banning you from training camp.
Well, they're not going to ban us from training camp. They're just not going to give us credentials.
Here's the thing. Let's say the season ends, and because I know Bobby is at his breaking point. He's told me like he has reached like he's very upset. He might not show it on some of these podcasts and these appearances he does, but I know he's mad. I feel like if they do what we sort of think they're going to do at the end of the season, there is going to be a rant that comes from Bobby that I think is going to lead the Giants to be like, we don't want this guy at training camp.
No, they won't do that. That'd be you thought this was a bad PR nightmare? That'd be the worst thing. They won't do that.
I just don't understand how an organization that's so obsessed with PR.
Bobby, they called you over that video. You think they won't take it to the next level?
Here's the thing PR people call people all the time and like that's kind of their thing. Again, if he called me and just bitched about it, I'd been like, whatever. It's the worst thing you did to them over the weekend was not the Joe Shane video. It was giving the guy that paid for the airplane a platform to basically shit on. I mean, we were promote. There's other things that we didn't share on that really bothered us about some things that they've done. That's not just put out together a shitty team together. But I forgot what I was the point I was making. But but we were like, so there was something they did that pissed us off last week that I can't share. And it had to do with the t-shirts of the plane on it. And then so I was like, do another plane, like beginning of the podcast, like somebody please do a plane. I was so mad. So like I thought for sure it'd be about the plane stuff. And we made some memes like I thought they'd be like, oh, that I thought it was gonna call me like really distasteful to do there's a second plane meme about it. Like I thought 100% it was about the plane, and it was like, oh, it's about a video saying a 2-12 GM should be fired. Are you serious right now?
Do you think that means that they are feeling the heat, or it's
because they want to keep Joe Shane. They want to keep Joe Shane.
I don't understand. Like they put out the feeler. They put out the feeler with Paul Schwartz.
Which is funny they put it out that morning. It's like you just
that morning wasn't subtle in the slightest. And every single person came out and said, this is a terrible idea. If this happened, I would be furious. And they're going to go ahead and do it anyway. Like, why would you even bother putting the feeler out there? Just do it.
Is it a feeler or is it like, or is it like, hey, prepare yourself, get your anger out?
To me, it's one and the same. This far out. Here's
where I don't, because there is a difference between us and then just the casual fan who's not on, quote unquote Giants Twitter. Like for a long time, I wasn't on Twitter, and I probably would have been sold like, yeah, you know what, this draft's doing pretty good. Let them get a QB. The only thing people won't like is the firing Dable keeps. I think, like you even see the polls. I think there's like 40% of people still would rather keep both for continuity's sake. So it's like, yeah, you're going to get shit on Twitter, but you're always going to get shit on Twitter. The issue is that they're just wrong, where it's like you shouldn't listen to the fans, but unfortunately the fans are like right a good amount of the time, and it's not about picking this player or that player. It's about like you're doing the dumbest shit ever, where everyone
of fans were screaming at them to get rid of Gettleman for 4 years.
Well, even or just even forget like getting rid of Gettleman in general, being like, okay, Gettleman's going to retire. You're going to keep Joe Judge while you do a G. Like that's again, we're not sitting here, breaking down the most complex NFL team building. It's just like, just don't do the dumbest shit possible.
Right.
Which would be the fire Dable keep Shane. It's like, we're telling you, we don't want you to keep both. Just keep both if you're going to do that.
Right.
But they've just been really bad. So they just have no credibility to do anything, which fucking
Bobby,
sucks.
I've known you for a couple of years now. This is the broken I've seen you in a while.
2021, I was pretty pissed because they were going to keep...
We were broken. Like, we were all pissed. The spaces and stuff that we were doing after games. Like,
I was thinking about that the other day.
Yeah.
The spaces.
We weren't pissed. Like, my
favorite was like Bob Papa and Carl Banks listening and people being like, we're changing things in the organization. I was like, Carl Banks is the most... He is the most, like, talk down to you person in the world, which is fine. Fucking all-pro linebacker, talk down to anyone. But, like,
right.
he thinks
should
we're
be in the Hall of Fame, by the way.
There's no one who thinks we're dumber than Carl Banks, which is fine by me. But like,
I mean, I am dumb.
Carl Banks isn't going back to John Mayer. I'm like, they're making some great points in these spaces, guys.
Yeah.
Well, the PR department would maybe
right now. I'm pissed, and they did make it a bit personal this week.
Oh
like,
yeah,
where I'm like, Walt tweeted like something about like some awful stat, and I just quote to it like fucking trash. Like I probably wouldn't have done that if I wasn't so pissed off.
Right.
I probably wouldn't be looking up things from 1938 to say this is the last time the Giants scored this amount of home touchdowns. So yeah, I mean, who wouldn't be pissed at this? They're fucking 2-12. They're 2-12 in year 3.
This is one thing,
and the message they're telling us is bullshit. Like at least Gettleman was fucking just overconfident in himself and a little bit funny. Joe Shane is like, hat in hand, be like, we're close, 1-score game, like the most bullshit arguments that NFL fans use.
I think it's either apathy or anger.
And it's been 12 years too.
Yeah,
like that's the other thing. It's like, when are you ever like, are we just going to be one of those teams that doesn't turn it around?
At this point, it's feeling like it. Like Weiss and I have been doing the pod since 2016. Like how many?
15.
No.
And, so
yes.
like
our first upload was August 2016.
You must have deleted some uploads then.
I did not delete some uploads.
Okay, 2016.
2016. But how many happy seasons have we had?
2.
Yeah.
2, which is just brutal, and those are kind
8 years.
Those were fake happy seasons too.
Correct.
So because of like the Super Bowls and Eli still being here, I was like a 2017, 28. Like I was in 28 because I wasn't doing content. I was like, Eli can get another Super Bowl for us. Like I still believe, but I had a moment. We interviewed Chris Snee in January last year. And I was asking about the helmet catch. I'm like, this was so fucking long ago. Like this is becoming ancient.
Reebok
like
used to be a thing back then.
Yeah, like we're coming up on the 20-year anniversary of the helmet catch.
It's lore. It's just.
And it's like, so the further you get away, it's like, you know what? I don't give a shit about those Super Bowls anymore. Like I'm not a grateful fan anymore. Like I don't want to,
You can only
I don't want to be one
before
where they had 3 Super Bowls,
yeah,
40 years ago and nothing since and just dysfunction since. So
agreed.
So the further we get away from it is the more.
And you're a little bit like you're a little bit older. When you look at people that during those Super Bowls were like 10, 11 years old, 12 years old, like 14 years old, now they're 24. It's like they've gone through a big portion of their young life just like with this, like just 10
Oh, they view 07 the same way I view like the Yankees winning in the 90s. Like I'm proud that I was alive for it, but I don't remember shit from the fucking 1999 World Series. I remember the Subway Series in 2000. That's it. And I didn't even, realize how fucking cool it was to play in the World Series at that point. So like
that's why this owner has to get more in touch with this younger fan base.
They're just out of touch as a building. And it's not about getting in touch with, I don't think it's about getting in touch with the young fan base.
John Mayer should come to the tailgate.
Well, the majority of the fan base, because the majority of the fan base now is a younger demographic.
I think they're just stuck in their ways, and they half-ass too much shit, and they feel bad for influencing stuff, and they have a hard time holding themselves accountability. When there's something that's wrong, instead of being like, this is just bad, they're like, all right, what's the one thing that's stopping this thing from becoming good? And that's the way they operate. Instead of being like, all right, this is bad,
can I give an example? Can I give you an example? Juan Soto signed 3 weeks ago, right?
With who?
2 weeks ago. With who? He signed 2 weeks ago.
With who?
That was the back pages of the New York Daily News and the New York Post. In the Giants' mind, they're like, "Oh, we got away with the embarrassment that was on Sunday. Like, we're good." I think it was the Saints game, right? Like, we got away with it. Nobody cares anymore. But it's like, no, people fucking remember that plane flying over. And it happened a week later. So it's like the way they think, if they don't change that, it's only going to be more stuff kind of thrown in their face. And I don't mean it like literally, but I mean in terms of like, we don't like you. Here's another plane. We don't like you. Here's 10,000 people deciding to show up wearing paper bags. And there's
I thought they were getting ready to say like fucking burn the building down. So that's something I decided this week. I got to stop making those jokes because they'll fucking, they'll
with the drones.
They'll look for any way to like kind of come after me now.
Exactly. So, then they'll actually ban you from training camp.
So no more BD MetLife jokes anymore. We don't make those jokes anymore on talking.
And I see a lot of people playing with that Grok stuff on Twitter.
Like I won't touch that. That's my old man. That's where I'm like the Giants, where I'm like, fuck this. I will never use it. Like when I Google something, I scroll past the AI thing. Like that's bullshit.
Do you want to hear something funny? So I was bitching about the Giants in a group chat. And I was talking, and I think it was actually about the PR department reaching out to you, Bobby. I was explaining the situation to some friends, and I was like, you know what? It would be very funny if I tweeted the words Gestapo in the Giants like logo font. So I went into Chat GPT and I asked it to do that for me, and it was like, sorry, I can't do that.
Really? See, I've never even.
But you know what? Grok probably would.
Yeah. Grok is just the Twitter AI, right?
Yeah.
You literally just go in there and you write, and like you can write a picture of Daniel Jones.
Write me a poem about Justin Pennick, and it'll write a poem.
I don't like it at all. I'll never do that. I'm sure I will like 2-3 years from now when it's like you're forced to, but I refuse to get with the times with AI bullshit.
Great tool. I love AI. AI is great.
All right. Anything else before we roll, fellas? Anything? I check out then. Let me actually get the link.
You guys think there's going to be another plane on Sunday or next Sunday?
There should be one in Atlanta. That would be hardcore.
Well, it's a dome. It's kind of tough. So.
Still, it's about the message.
Colts game.
I'm putting your guys' podcast link in the chat. There's Apple. We'll do Spotify as well too. Beautiful. What do you? Do you think there's a chance to be just multiple planes where everyone's like, all right, last game, this is my last chance to get a plane in. Go subscribe to their pod.
I've actually had that thought.
Like I thought there was a good chance there was going to be multiple on Sunday, where it's like they would be not running.
Well, what happens if somebody flies a plane over Philadelphia too? Like, hey, John, you can't escape us.
That would be good.
Follow you till,
even if they get good, let's just make a planes part of the Giants game day routine.
You know what? I remember like way back in the day. Again, this is unrelated. I went to Philly with my dad for an Islanders Flyers game, and this was when the Islanders were terrible. And I was just like walking through, like, this is like my first Philly sports experience. You know, you hear like, oh, these fans are assholes, like they're crazy. And like, they just like looked at me and my dad in like our Islanders jerseys. And they're like, I can't even make fun of you. Like, I had people apologizing. Like, I'm so sorry. I genuinely think that's what it would be like Giants fans going to Philly at this point. Like, they wouldn't even bully you. They'd just be like, I'm sorry.
They beat us every single time.
They would just, I feel bad for you.
When I was at the playoff game a couple years ago, there was a guy there, and he was intoxicated. And that game was over like in the third quarter. And I remember he just turned to me. He's like, do you want me to make fun of you for the remainder of this game? Or do you want to just leave now?
They're such great shit taker. They're great. They're amazing shit talkers. Like,
so I turned to him. I was Philly,
like, I love their fans.
Yeah.
They're just
so I turned to them and I was like, you know what? You can shit on me all you want, but I'm not fucking leaving, right? And then we ended up having a conversation, and that was that. So,
are you going to the Colts game, Ethan?
Fuck no.
I kind of want to go and just feel the hatred of like
Bobby. If you go, I'll go.
Building like that.
If you go, I'll go. But I want to ask you this, Bobby, because I did this exercise with Ethan, and it just completely failed on my pot.
The end of the show, yeah, that didn't make any fucking sense. The trade one.
Yeah, I know it's a simple exercise, right?
But you described it the worst way possible.
Why?
Like,
because I try. All right. Well, let's describe it your way. Is there anybody on the Giants roster right now that a team would trade a first-round pick for? That person can't be Dexter Lawrence.
This is the right way to ask the question.
A first-round pick for?
Well, I try to break the teams up between you and Nick.
It's Malik Neighbors, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Second round.
Oh, hold on. Just because I don't make sure everyone heard that isn't Andrew Thomas or Dexter Lawrence.
Right. Yes. Right. Basically, just Shane additions.
Yes.
Second round pick Brian Burns. I mean, he just got traded.
So you would give up a second round pick for Brian Burns and take that contract.
It depends where my team is. Like again, I break that down. But like
my whole thing is teams that would do that.
Yeah, I mean the Giants did it. My whole thing is not you trade for, like you should have kept McKinney as well. You could have made both work.
Third round.
But yeah, Burns is a second round pick. I mean, we just saw it. So yeah.
Third round pick.
Let's see.
Tracy.
O-line. So when you take this long, that means you're trying to talk yourself into something.
No, I'm just going position by position. Wide receiver, no. Tight end, no. O-line, no. Illuminor could go for a third round pick for a desperate team that's like got their right tackle injured. But in the offseason, wouldn't happen. D-line, no. I could see someone giving up a third for Kayvon because they still believe in and getting him. He hasn't looked like
Jahan Dotson was for a third,
but
Jahan Dotson.
I think Kayvon could go for like I think the Giants should pick up Kayvon's option, which sucks that you have to like argue that, but I do think that. And then
so my point was that
nobody else
out of forget about 4th through 7th, right? Between draft picks round 1 and round 3. There's only 2 guys or 3 guys that the Giants could net a first, a second, or a third for.
Oh, yeah. That's a shitty roster. That's why I've done that top 10 exercise so often. Not only just because it shows how bad the top 10 is, but also it's like the top 2 are Gettleman. You know, Slayton's in there somewhere who's Gettleman. They have no UFAs. Like the only UFA we're signing this offseason is Darius Slayton. He's the only one who will get more than like $2 million per year. Like and that's why anyways. All right, well
you guys I don't want Joe Shane spending what is it, $65-70 million in salary cap.
Yeah.
Because that'll set you back too.
We've seen that happen twice with when they fired Coughlin and when they fired
That's what scares me the most. Yes, that's what scares me the most.
Yeah. Also, like any argument that gets made for like, well, Joe Shane in year 3 has been good. I want you to remember this. If Dave Gettleman's year 3 was like his other 4 years, he'd be the best GM in football. He got Thomas and McKinney in the top of that draft. He got playable players in the day 3 of the draft. All their free agent signings were guys that like weren't the highest pay at the position, but ended up being the best at Bradbury, Blake, Logan Ryan. Even like the fucking minimum guys like Kyler Fackrell and Cam Fleming did their job. Dion Lewis was a receiving back. Like that 2020, and you know, Judge was viewed highly at that point. Patrick Graham was, you know, had him as a top 10 defense. Really, the only thing from that offseason that was just atrocious was they fucking forced them to hire Jason Garrett because they didn't really believe in the head coach they hired. Like if a GM had that offseason every year, he'd be one of the best GMs in football. You just have to get the quarterback. So like even if you want to fucking talk about Shane's great year 3, then you need to go back and say that you would have brought back Gettleman after year 3. All right, that's a stream. We will preview pod without the preview pod in the morning. Go subscribe to these guys' pods. Thank you very much, and we'll talk soon, fellas. Let's go Big Blue.